Exclusive contract novel from Feilu Novel Network. Madam, you don't want your daughter to have any problems, do you? Chen travels through the urban vernacular and tragically becomes the #1 villain in the book. In the original work, I was crazily slapped and arranged by the protagonist, feeling extremely depressed. Fortunately, at this moment, awaken the heavenly destiny rebel system. Utilize prophetic abilities and systems to start dominating. At the beginning, he kidnapped the female lead and threatened her beautiful mother. Madam, you don't want your daughter to be wronged, do you? After rounds of attacks, Chen achieved his wish. And the protagonist's luck, treasures, girls, and connections. I want everything. From then on, Chen used heaven and earth as the chessboard, and each protagonist as the chess piece. Become the ultimate boss behind the scenes, dominate everything, cover the sky with one hand, and become the underground emperor and the protagonists of the original work never knew until their death. How did the protagonist's halo disappear so quickly? Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. The Destiny Anti-Faction System Seeking Flower Review. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiangqing. In a noble private villa. Have I traveled? In shock, Chen received all the information in the original owner's mind. He traveled through a mindless novel called The Return of the Dragon King in the City. In this book, it mainly tells the story of the protagonist Yi Xian who, after years of wandering outside, gained the name of Dragon King and returned to Jiangqing. Then, with a domineering aura, he punched various forces and gathered all the beautiful women in the city. Unlike Yi Xian's smooth sailing, Chen in the original work is a bit tragic. As the first runner of this book, the best soy sauce maker, and a free human sandbag, Chen has made a lot of appearances. However, every time Chen appears, he is humiliated and slapped by Yi Xian. Not to mention the loss of the girl, the family company has all gone bankrupt. Mad. As a social animal in my past life, I had to look at the boss's expression in the company. When you go home to play games and recharge, it depends on your girlfriend's expression. Now that Timiao has traveled through time, it still depends on the protagonist's expression. Chen's face looked a bit angry, angrily condemning the time when nature was manipulating people. Suddenly, a crisp and pleasant mechanical reminder sounded in his ear. Ding! The Destiny Villain system is activated. The beginner's gift package has been distributed. Do you want to open it? Hear the system sound ringing in your ear. Chen was stunned for a second, then burst into great joy. Golden Finger. This is the standard configuration for the traveler. And, do you also have a beginner gift package? Chen thought to herself, open the gift pack. Ding! Open the beginner gift pack, host's appearance and temperament +10. Although Chen is already very handsome, his appearance is a sure bet. Excited, Chen didn't forget to check what the system really had. Quickly, he understood all the capabilities of the system. Currently, there is a lottery function in the system. In the future, as long as the original protagonist of the Hu novel, Yi Xian, has the opportunity, luck, and sister, one can achieve a turning point. And every 1,000 reversal points can be used to draw a prize. That means as long as Chen goes to slap Yi Xian. So the rewards will be continuously collected by him. Chen's eyes lit up with a brilliant light. He's not the same Chen as before. The plot, characters, and even some hidden information, Chen knew everything because he had watched the original work. Taking advantage of this advantage, he can stomp on Yi Xian fiercely. My fate is up to me, not by heaven. See who it is, in order to laugh to the end. Turn your gaze. Chen drove back to her villa. As soon as they entered the door, the butler and maid approached to inquire if Chen needed any service. This luxurious lifestyle is only available to wealthy families like the Su family. Chen shook his head and waved his hand, letting them each return to their respective positions. Immediately, he walked towards the room without hesitation. And the maids, one by one, blushed and peeked at Chen's back. Why do they always feel like Dashao has become handsome again today? Entering the room, Chen had a clear goal and went upstairs to her own study. Walking to the bookshelf, Chen squinted his eyes and scanned slightly. Then he extended his right hand in order. Take out 1 stray birds, 1 blue blood sword and 1 green fairy tale from the bookshelf in turn. Suddenly, a wall on the side of the study cracked with a loud bang. Take a closer look, it's a hidden door. Chen strolled leisurely into the secret door. After Chen entered, the secret door slowly closed automatically. If someone enters the study again, there will be no trace to be found. Entering the secret door, one can see a staircase in sight. Chen walked down the stairs and soon stepped on the ground. No one would know that there were such mechanisms and places in Chen's study. Looking up, the room was filled with people coming and going. Men and women wearing uniform gray work clothes. They were expressionless, busy with their computers or tablets. This is one of the powerful trumps in Chen's original work. The dark side. The dark side can not only monitor the surroundings of the villa, but also provide Chen with the safest living environment. Also responsible for gathering information and secrets about the hostile forces of the Su family. Of course, Chen in the original work mostly used the dark side as a tool to observe the movements of the goddess, using it as a licking dog to pick up girls. All the safe money has been used on the handle. Chen is really a bit speechless. The head of the dark department is an unattractive man named Zhang Wei. This person is a staunch loyal member of the Su family. He saw Chen and immediately welcomed him. Xiao. Chen let out a gentle hum from her nose. Does Xiaoka have any new tasks for us to do? As he spoke, Zhang Wei looked at Chen. After all, with the support of the system's buff, Chen's temperament has become increasingly domineering. Chen looked at Zhang Wei and slightly curled the corner of his mouth. I really have a task to assign to you. In an underground parking lot in Jiangqing. A very tall figure walked to his car with a pair of high heels clattering. At the moment when I opened the door, I caught a casual glance. You can see her silky green hair and charming and passionate peach blossom eyes. A delicate nose bridge and rosy cherry lips. At the same time as captivating people's hearts, there is also a hint of purity and sharpness of being cold and beautiful. Multiple temperaments appeared on her face at the same time, but no one would feel abrupt. The pure and lustful ceiling is probably like this. She is the female lead of the original work. Yan Ruyue. At this moment, Yan Ruyue had just finished work and was in a good mood. I thought of a restaurant that I had booked for a long time and finally found a seat. Yan Ryue's small face showed a faint smile. She hummed a song and just opened the car door and entered the car. At the moment of sitting in the seat, Yan Ryue's head was dizzy. A sudden feeling of dizziness caught Yan Ryue off guard. She reached out her hand and tried to open the car door. However, the strength has been lost. In her final gaze, a black figure slowly sat up in the back seat. In a coma, I don't know how long time has passed. Yan Ryue suddenly woke up with a hint of fear in her eyes. The surrounding environment is very dilapidated. There is a smell of rust in the air. I don't know if it's a small black house in an abandoned factory in the suburbs. Yan Ryue is a girl after all, and she feels a bit flustered in her heart. She lowered her head and saw her hands bound behind her. Seeing this situation and the rope on my body. She doesn't even understand that she was kidnapped. But who on earth would do such a thing? Yan Ryue's pretty face was pale, frantically searching for solutions in her mind. At this moment, the door of the small black room suddenly creaked. Immediately, slowly open it. Some dazzling light shone through the crack in the door. Yenryue looked at the direction of the door with cold and resentful eyes. A tall figure slowly approached her. New book kneeling for collection, flowers, evaluation tickets. Chapter 2. A licking dog dares to kidnap me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the figure drew closer and closer to Yenryu, her heart was also becoming increasingly flustered. For a moment, Yenryu struggled frantically. Unexpectedly, the delicate skin on the wrist has been rubbed out with red marks. You. Don't come over. Her face was as bright as the moonlight, and she fiercely rebuked the approaching figure. However, the figure chuckled lightly upon hearing her words. Then it walked even faster. Looking at the approaching man, Yenryue's brain went blank. In almost an instant, the figure had already arrived in front of Yenryue. You. Ah. How could it be you? Following the light, Yenryue finally saw the appearance of the newcomer clearly. The man in front of me is none other than Su Chen. After seeing Su Chen, Yenryue suddenly had a deep understanding in her heart. The tension in my heart has dissipated quite a bit. After all, in Yenryue's heart, Su Chen in front of her is her number one big licking dog. And his loyal dog appeared here. What else can we do if we don't come to save her? Yenryue pouted, and the princess's temper suddenly rose. Su Chen. You finally came to save me. Hurry up and untie the rope on me. This bossy attitude properly treated Su Chen as his own lackey. If Su Chen had seen Yenryue like this before, I must have stuck out my tongue and followed her instructions. Yenryue said one, he absolutely dares not to. But now a cold smile appeared at the corner of Su Chen's mouth. His face was not visible under the dim light. Yenryue thought that Su Chen was going to obey her command and help her untie the rope. Be careful not to touch my body with your dirty hands. Yenryue's bad attitude as a young lady. Even Su Chen helped her untie the rope and had to take care of everything. It's no different from serving ancient princesses. Su Chen did indeed extend his hand. However, his hands are not meant to untie any ropes for Yenryue. But instead, he directly pinched Yenryue's delicate chin. While pinching, Su Chen also praised the collagen protein on her face, which was as beautiful as a moon, with a few clicks. Yenryue was shocked. She looked at Su Chen with an incredulous expression on her face. What are you doing? How dare you treat me like this? Sob. Su Chen became addicted to pinching her face, even starting to rub her moonlit face with both hands. It's very comical to directly shape Yenryue's face into various shapes. Being treated so by her former licking dog, Yenryue was both shocked and angry in her heart. This kind of thing was absolutely impossible to happen in the past. After all, how could Su Chen, as her licking dog, go against her wishes? Let go of me. Su Chen, you big rascal. If you continue like this, I will ignore you. Yenryue struggled fiercely. She felt a hint of unease in Su Chen's gaze. Is it she was kidnapped here by Su Chen? The more Yenryue thinks, the more she feels that her ideas are right. If it weren't for this, how could Su Chen find her so quickly? And, you're still tampering with her. Su Chen, is this what you did? You're just my licking dog, how dare you kidnap me? Yenryue didn't give up, thinking that if she really got angry, Su Chen will definitely return to her previous licking dog state. However, no matter how Yenryue shouted, Su Chen remained unmoved. Pop. A crisp sound echoed in this small black room. Yenryue felt the burning pain on her face and looked at Su Chen incredulously. He surprisingly slapped her. How could this be possible? In Yenryue's shocked gaze, Chen suddenly grinned. Ding. Detected shock from Yen Ryue, obtained a reversal point of 300. The turning point has finally arrived. Chen was very satisfied and pinched Yen Ryue's chin. There was a hint of rebellious laughter in his eyes. Such a gaze made Yen Ryue feel unfamiliar and afraid. Isn't Chen just a foolish second-generation wealthy man who always responds to his own needs? But at this moment, his expression is completely different from before. In my eyes, there seems to be a fire burning. Chen chuckled and looked at Yen Ryue, whispering. Don't worry, I won't do anything to you. Catching you is just to achieve my other goal. Yen Ryue's eyes relaxed slightly upon hearing the words. But then, she frowned again. If Chen's goal of catching her is not her own, what would it be? At the same time. In a villa in Jiangqing. A woman with an incredibly plump figure and a mature charm anxiously wandered around the room. Her name is Qingwu and she is the hostess of the Yen family. And Yen Ryue is her own daughter. Yen Ryue is so beautiful that she is closely related to Qingwu. Although Qingwu is already a mother, she has a tall figure and tight skin. Her snow-white skin and sharp chin made it impossible to tell that she was almost 40 years old. There is no excess fat on the abdomen, and the temperament is elegant and luxurious. A pretty face with affectionate eyebrows and eyes, and a tear mole at the corner of her eye added a unique charm to her. If Qingwu and Yen Ryue stand together, I'm afraid others will really mistake them for sisters. It's already evening now, but Yen Ryue still hasn't gone home. As Yen Ryue's biological mother, Qingwu naturally felt a bit anxious. After quickly contacting Yen Ryue's friends and colleagues for inquiries. Everyone's answer is the same, they all don't know Yen Ryue's whereabouts. Even Qingwu contacted the restaurant that Yen Ryue had originally booked. However, the result was also nothing. Yen Ryue never went to a restaurant to eat at all. At this moment, Qingwu panicked. She only has such a precious daughter. If something really happens to her, Qingwu doesn't know how she should survive. Alright, stop wandering around. I've been completely confused by you. A middle-aged man with white temples sat on the sofa in the room, speaking helplessly. This person is Yen Ryue's father, Yen Likun. In Jiangqing, Yen Likun's commercial ability is also among the outstanding. Upon hearing Yen Likun, Qingwu's pretty face darkened and she stared at him with beautiful eyes. Then you should give back your daughter to me. Yen Likun was speechless upon hearing these words. But after seeing Qingwu's face not looking good, he didn't blame Qingwu either, but let out a sigh. You don't have to worry too much, he comforted and said in a friendly tone, I have already contacted Director Gao of the police station, and they will soon retrieve you. Upon hearing this, Qingwu felt a little better and sat down on the sofa. Sitting on one side with long legs, it looked incredibly pleasing from a distance. I hope these people can fulfill their duties and quickly retrieve the moon. New book Kneeling for collection, flowers, evaluation tickets. Chapter 3. Wife Qingwu, seeking flower evaluation tickets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After receiving the phone call from the Yen family, the police attach great importance to this matter. After all, this is a case involving Miss Yen from the Yen family. Director Gao of the police station personally told the people below that they must be quickly retrieved. Director Gao did not forget to tell Yen Likun. If there are indeed kidnappers calling them, be sure to notify the police station in a timely manner. This matter concerns the crisis of his own daughter, and Yen Likun naturally agreed with great importance. At the same time, the police station also arranged for some personnel to be near Yan's house as a precaution. If something really happens, the police can react as quickly as possible. So, the police station started to get busy because of Miss Yan's situation. Check the surveillance footage or inquire about the company. It's also good to investigate the underground garage where Yan Ryue finally disappeared. Everything looks incredibly normal. There is no situation where the camera is broken, and there are no other abnormal phenomena. It's like Yan Ryue, a living person, suddenly disappeared out of thin air and evaporated from the human world. Now the investigators at the police station are having a headache. Because they really haven't found any clues. If Su Chen knew the voices of these hard-working investigators in the middle of the night, she would probably burst into laughter. He specially arranged for people from the dark to catch Yan Ryue. How could there be such a low-level mistake of being caught with a wolf's tail? The people in the dark are not only the martyrs of Su Chen, but also have outstanding abilities. For example, anti-reconnaissance and anti-tracking are all pediatrics. It's not in vain that the Fei Su family spends a lot of money every year to support them. So, after several hours of investigation, the police station still had no useful news. It was already late at night, and Yan Likun was very angry when he learned that the police station had returned without success. Simply put on your clothes and leave overnight. Go find some of your business tycoon friends to help. Seeing Yan Likun also leave the door. Mu Qingwu, who had always been extremely worried, was completely disoriented. She wandered restlessly in the living room at home. Their family only has such a precious daughter. This time hasn't come back yet, something must have happened. Mu Qing held back tears in her beautiful eyes and was extremely worried about Yan Ryue. At this usual time, Mu Qingwu either fell asleep. Either take care of your skin or do yoga to manage your figure. However, today something happened, and Mu Qingwu had no intention at all. She can't sleep and doesn't feel in the mood for anything. In the anxious waiting process of Mu Qingwu. At some point, the phone in the room suddenly rang. Mu Qingwu's originally sleepy eyes suddenly widened. Hurriedly ran to his phone and picked it up. Upon closer inspection, it appears to be an unfamiliar number. Mu Qingwu suddenly became alert. But he quickly answered the phone. Hello. Upon hearing Mu Qingwu's voice, the other end of the phone smiled as if they had succeeded. Hello, Madam Mu, I'm sorry to disturb you so late. The voice cannot distinguish between male and female, clearly due to the use of voice-changing techniques. Mu Qing's eyebrows furrowed slightly as she danced, afraid to act recklessly. Instead, he held the phone tightly with his jade hand and cooperated, saying, Are you? The voice over the phone continued, It doesn't matter who I am, what's important is that Mrs. Mu should understand the meaning of my call. Mu Qingwu's breathing suddenly became a bit rapid. However, she managed to remain calm. She said coldly, What do you want? Money. How much does it cost? Let's say the number. Upon hearing Mu Qingwu's words, the other end of the phone chuckled. Mu Qingwu suddenly had a bad guess in her heart. These people isn't it for money. However, the next sentence from the kidnapper made Mu Qingwu feel a little more at ease. Money is naturally more beneficial, so let's start with 5 million. 5 million. Mu Qingwu hardly hesitated. Immediately said to the phone, 5 million is no problem. But please don't harm my daughter. That's natural, but Madam Mu, don't tell anyone about this phone call, replied the lazy caller on the other end of the phone, including your husband, otherwise. Hee hee. Mu Qingwu bit her lower lip and said with hatred, I know. I won't tell anyone. Well. Then, you can bring the money to the western suburbs of Jiangcheng. When you arrive, you will see a signboard and I will give you the next prompt. Upon hearing this, Mu Qingwu's heart sank and she said, Do you mean to have me personally deliver the money? There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. Mu Qingwu suddenly regretted something. Quickly speaking out, I'll just go and deliver it. But I want to confirm my daughter's condition first. Sure. It seems that Mu Qingwu happily agreed to the kidnapper's request. Soon, a slightly dim photo was sent to Mu Qingwu's phone. Mu Qingwu looked at the photo and saw that it was her daughter Yan Ruyue. She took a deep breath and picked up the phone. "I will be over soon, I hope you keep your word." The other end of the phone gave a gentle hum and then hung up. Putting down her phone, Mu Qingwu immediately stood up. A family as big as the Yan family naturally has cash reserves. However, when the other party spoke up, it was only 5 million yuan, so their family definitely didn't have enough. Fortunately, there are several anonymous black cards in the safe. Mu Qingwu brought some cash and a black card. He hurriedly walked to a secret passage in the room. Silently avoided the police officers around Yan's house and left the villa. As night falls, the main roads in the suburbs are very desolate. Mu Qingwu followed the prompts given by the phone and accelerated along the way. Not long after, we arrived at a very remote abandoned factory in the suburbs. Entering the factory, a cold wind blew past. Mu Qingwu instinctively hugged her delicate body. In such a dark place, Mu Qingwu would not have dared to come alone if it weren't for her daughter. I struggled to hold the box containing money in my hand. Mu Qingwu walked towards the dark interior of the factory with firm eyes. As she walked, Mu Qingwu suddenly noticed a chair placed in the shadow of the factory. And on the chair, there was a person sitting in awe. Mu Qingwu felt a little scared in her heart, but she still pretended to be strong and approached a bit. The person sitting on the chair is none other than Chen, who planned everything. He looked at the prey approaching him with satisfaction. There is a hint of appreciation and playfulness in the eyes. Although the light is a bit dim. But Mu Qingwu's perfect figure silhouette is still vaguely visible. Chen nodded satisfied and suddenly pressed a button in her hand. Suddenly, all the lights in the entire factory lit up. Always in the darkness, suddenly illuminated by this dazzling light. Mu Qingwu instinctively raised her left arm to cover her eyes. And the moment the light hit Mu Qingwu's body, Chen also saw clearly the unparalleled style of Mu Qingwu. A strong desire for plunder suddenly appeared in his eyes. New book kneeling for collection, flowers, evaluation tickets. Chapter 4. Dashao. How is it you? Seeking freshness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Under the dazzling light, Mu Qingwu was completely unaware that she had been scrutinized from head to toe by Chen. After she finally adapted to the light, she quickly lowered her head to look at the man on the chair. However, the face in front of her almost made her burst out laughing. Because Chen actually wore a funny expression mask on her face. However, she quickly suppressed her smile. Mu Qingwu doesn't want to anger the man in front of her who looks very dangerous. Moreover, his own daughter is still in his hands. Although the smile on her face was fleeting, but it was still clearly caught in Chen's eyes. The moment Mu Qingwu smiled, her charm was like a blooming lotus. Just a fleeting glance is unforgettable. This kind of mature female charm is really beyond the average little girl's ability to match. Chen remained calm and praised Mu Qingwu's appearance and temperament from the bottom of her heart. No wonder Boss Chow had such a good taste in the beginning. It seems that they have been ahead of their vision for many centuries. Madam Mu, am I very funny? It's the voice of a young man. Mu Qingwu seemed to be familiar to her. But in this special environment, she didn't have time to carefully distinguish. Mu Qingwu quickly waved her hand and said, "It's not funny, I just remembered something happy." Chen is not in a hurry to get to the point with Mu Qingwu. After all, there is still a lot of time to waste in one night. The time spent with such a beautiful woman will never feel dull. Moreover, it's still early. Oh. Do you want to share it with me? Chen's voice was deep and hoarse. At this moment, Mu Qingwu had no mood to chat with Chen. But instead, she smoothed a strand of beautiful hair around her ear, restoring her cold and beautiful face. Sorry, let's talk about business instead. Chen didn't force the other party either and crossed his legs. Sure, do you have the money with you? Qingwu nodded. Immediately, he placed the box in his hand on the ground and crouched down to open it. Under the mask, Chen squinted and stared at Qingwu's back. As Qingwu opened the box, she didn't forget to explain. I brought it. It's just that this money. It's not all cash. I can't get you 5 million cash at once this big night. As she spoke, Qingwu's body suddenly stiffened. Her body trembled slightly and begged for mercy. Please don't do this, can't I still give you money? Oh. Do you think I have poor money? Chen raised an eyebrow and felt a burst of laughter in his heart. He asked for money purely because of his identity as a kidnapper. He gently turned Qingwu around and made her face him. At this moment, Qingwu's face was tinged with shyness. Her eyes were as moist as autumn water, as if she was about to cry at any moment. Feeling Qingwu exhaling like orchids in her arms. Even though Chen had a firm will, he almost broke through. Madam Mu, don't be afraid. I won't do anything to you. Qingwu looked at the salty pig hands on her waist and glared at Chen with anger. Chen seemed to have noticed this too and let out a slight cough with embarrassment. Turning the topic around, he said, I have a video here about Madam and your daughter. Would you like to watch it? Upon hearing this, Qingwu immediately forgot all her emotions. The money is already here. If it's not enough, I can still add more money. Please spare my daughter. Chen smiled silently and said, Madam Mu, don't worry for now. Let's watch this video first. Speaking, he took out a phone from his pocket. Qingwu quickly took her phone over, inside which was playing a video. A sweet-looking girl, pitifully eating a boxed lunch. Qingwu recognized the woman in the video. It's her daughter Yan Rue. Suddenly, Qingwu almost shed tears. With a hint of pleading in her eyes, she looked at Chen and said, please let her go. Money is really not a problem. Chen shook her head and said, I told you before that I wouldn't do anything to your daughter, Mrs. Mu. Qingwu didn't believe Chen's words and felt a little excited. After all, when did her daughter Yan Rue suffer such hardship from childhood to adulthood? The thought of her daughter crying alone in the dark little room made Qingwu feel heartbroken. Excited, Qingwu grabbed Chen's shoulder and shook it. Under the shaking, a sudden mutation occurred. Suddenly, the mask on Chen's face fell off, falling to the ground with a loud clatter. The room suddenly fell into an awkward situation. Their eyes slowly moved up from the mask on the ground, and suddenly collided with each other. Chen was also single, showing a big smile at Qingwu, who had a shocked expression on her face. But Qingwu is not as calm as Chen. She reached out her hand in disbelief and took a few steps back. Dashao. How could it be you? There are 8 major families in the upper class of Jiangcheng, plus 10 small families. And the Su family stands out among the 8 major families, even ranking in the top 3. The Yan family, where Qingwu is located, is one of the 10 small families. Although compared to ordinary families, they also belong to the category of behemoths. But in front of the power represented by the Su family, it's like praying mantis wielding a chariot. Chen saw that Qingwu recognized her and decided not to act anymore. Since Madame Mu already knows my identity, I'll have a showdown. In the next month, as long as you obediently listen to me, I promise your daughter won't lose a hair. New book kneeling for collection, flowers, evaluation tickets. New book kneeling for collection, flowers, evaluation tickets. Kneeling for a fresh flower, a review ticket, a reward, if any, 10 more. New books kneeling for collection, fresh flowers, review tickets. Kneeling for a fresh flower, a review ticket, a reward, if any, 10 more. New books kneeling for collection, fresh flowers, review tickets. Kneeling for a flower, a review ticket, a reward, and if there are any, 10 more. New book kneeling for collection, flowers, evaluation tickets. Kneeling for a flower, a review ticket, a reward, and if there are any, 10 more. New book kneeling for collection, flowers, evaluation tickets. Kneeling for a flower, a review ticket, a reward, and if there are any, 10 more. New book kneeling for collection, flowers, evaluation tickets. Kneeling for a flower, a review ticket, a reward, and if there are any, 10 more. Chapter 5. Madam Mu, I am very satisfied with your performance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the next month, all you need to do is listen to me obediently. I guarantee your daughter won't lose a single hair. After hearing what Chen said, Mu Qingwu's beautiful eyes contain several emotions of shock, embarrassment, anger, and helplessness. Even the Yan family is just like a shrimp in front of the Su family. If Mu Qingwu really disregards everything and goes back to tell Yan LeCun that the mastermind behind the scenes is Chen, I'm afraid the Yan and Su families will never stop dying. But their daughter is still in Chen's hands. The energy of the Su family, once fully engaged in war with the Yan family. Companies in all industries of the Yan family are likely to be suppressed by the Su family until bankruptcy. In the end, he will die very miserably. Thinking of this ending, Mu Qingwu's face turned pale. Chen was not in a hurry either, and looked at the constantly changing expression on Mu Qingwu's pretty face with great interest. He is now a hunter, and Mu Qingwu is the prey he is targeting. Experienced hunters often wait until the most suitable time before taking action. Once a move is made, it will hit the prey's life gate directly. As expected, it didn't take long. Struggling, Mu Qingwu still lacks the courage to joke about her own daughter's life. She bit her lower lip and looked at Chen with a hint of sadness in her beautiful eyes. Dashao, I understand now. As long as I listen to you for the next month, will you spare my daughter and our family? Chen's face showed a wicked smile and pretended to be serious, saying, Of course, would someone from Jiangqing Su deceive you into being a woman-like family? Mu Qingwu nodded reluctantly. Upon seeing this, Chen pondered for a moment. So your first task for Madame Mu is waved to Mu Qingwu and said. He paused for a moment, then smiled wickedly and said, Come and kiss me. As soon as she said this, Mu Qingwu's face immediately turned red. She looked at Chen, who was about the same age as her own daughter, with a shocked expression on her face. I saw Chen with sword eyebrows and starry eyes, and a handsome face with sharp edges. He has a tall and upright figure, full of sunshine. His lips gently curled up, his eyes smiling but not reaching the bottom of his eyes. If this appearance were to take to the streets, perhaps this leather bag alone would attract young girls to scream. Chen's parents are a famous handsome and beautiful couple. How could he, who inherited the excellent genes of both of them, be unattractive? Mu Qingwu couldn't believe it and pointed to her face. Dashao is joking. Can you still catch a glimpse of an old lady like me? Chen's eyes were fiery, and she stared at Mu Qingwu's beautiful eyes without any concealment. I don't know about others, but in my eyes, madam, you are much more beautiful than your daughter. Upon hearing this, Mu Qingwu felt a bit embarrassed. Although Mu Qingwu is almost 40 years old. But there is no difference in body shape and skin care compared to a little girl. Skin is snow-white, with a tall and curvy figure that protrudes forward and backward. On the pretty face, there was no makeup or embellishment due to haste. On the contrary, it looks more pure and beautiful like a lotus blooming from clear water. A pair of peach blossom eyes moved restlessly with tenderness. The beautifully shaped cherry lips give people an impulse to taste them. If compared to a beautiful girl like Yen Ryue who is in the prime of her life. Su Chen felt that a mature lady like Mu Qingwu had a better taste. After all, Mu Qingwu is the type of woman who possesses the favorite attributes of Boss Chow. And Su Chen, it's just so great. Mu Qingwu struggled for a long time, but finally compromised. After all, if these first conditions are not met by Su Chen, Mu Qingwu believes that Su Chen may do even worse things. So, Mu Qingwu bit her lower lip and said, "I know." Subsequently, she shyly took the first few steps. His eyes drooped, afraid to look directly into Su Chen's fiery eyes. Immediately, he tiptoed lightly and quickly kissed Su Chen's side face. Su Chen felt a fragrance emanating from his nose. The soft touch on the face is fleeting. He touched the area where he was being kissed, but was still unsatisfied. After kissing Su Chen, Mu Qingwu quickly took a few steps back like a rabbit. With a shy expression on his face, 2 peach blossoms flew up his cheeks. Su Chen, possessed by the essence of the play, pretended to be shocked and looked at Mu Qingwu. "Madam, why did you only kiss my right cheek and my left cheek?" Mu Qingwu was very puzzled and looked at Su Chen in confusion. "Is there any difference between the left and right faces?" Su Chen looked extremely serious and said, "If you only kiss my right face, soon my right face may be bigger than my left face." Mu Qingwu was stunned, not expecting such a strange statement. She dodged her eyes and looked at the ground. "What else do you want?" When she said these words, her voice even trembled slightly. After finishing speaking, she felt a bit regretful and lowered her eyes without saying a word. Upon seeing this, Su Chen chuckled inwardly. Silently, she leaned over to Mu Qingwu. As she moved, Su Chen whispered, "As long as Madam kisses my left cheek again, everything will be fine." After speaking, Su Chen had already arrived in front of Mu Qingwu. Upon hearing this, Mu Qingwu became conflicted. "However, I thought to myself that I would just kiss him a little more and not lose a piece of flesh. And Su Chen is so handsome, she's not particularly at a disadvantage." Although there was some sense of responsibility, Mu Qingwu nodded. She went all out for her daughter. So, Mu Qingwu gently tiptoed up again, trying to kiss Su Chen's left face. But when she was about to touch Su Chen's left face, Su Chen deliberately tilted his face. Suddenly, Mu Qingwu's lips also touched Su Chen's. Her face changed drastically, and she was about to step back and say, "Su, you." However, everything she had to say was blocked by Su Chen. Su Chen's arms tightly wrapped around her willow waist, and for a moment, Mu Qingwu could only bear it involuntarily. Due to Yen Likun's work, the couple didn't know how long it had been. After all, what Yen Likun wants to manage is a large family business. And their daughter is a bit stubborn and unwilling to go home to accept work. Su Chen's technique instantly made Mu Qingwu's subconscious become somewhat addicted to it. I don't know how long it has been, but Mu Qingwu's green hair is messy. Completely losing his strength, he leaned softly against Su Chen's embrace. Su Chen pursed the corners of her mouth with great satisfaction, feeling the delicate body in her arms. The taste he just tasted made him almost addicted. Watching the gentle and boneless posture of Mu Qingwu in her arms, Su Chen also knew that she couldn't be forced anymore today. After all, the days ahead are long. Detected Mu Qingwu's spiritual wave and obtained a reversal point of 200. Now, the turning point has also been reached. Su Chen gently helped Mu Qingwu tidy up her hair. She whispered in her ear, "Madam Mu, I am very satisfied with your performance today. After you go back, I hope you can do this. In a month's time, I guarantee that your daughter and the Yen family are safe and sound." Mu Qingwu's eyes still carry moisture. Subconsciously, he nodded at the words. New book kneeling for collection, flowers, evaluation tickets. Kneeling for a flower, a review ticket, a reward, and if there are any, 10 more. Chapter 6. The game has just begun, seeking novelty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Qingwu returned home feeling lost, it was already very late. The first thing she did when she went home was to call the police station as instructed by Chen. Qingwu told them that there was no need to help find her daughter anymore. At the same time, she told them that Rue was just going on a trip, just a false alarm. After hearing this news, the police station was very confused. They found someone who stayed up all night, and surprisingly, they had a spontaneous trip. Qingwu apologized to them with great embarrassment. The police station was ultimately helpless and withdrew all its personnel. And Yen went out in the middle of the night to find his old friends, just to kiss his daughter. Half of the result was found, and the police told him that the case had been revoked. Yen suddenly had a question mark on his face. It wasn't until he called Qingwu that he learned that Rue had gone out to play. It will be back in about a month. Yen naturally felt that this matter was somewhat eerie. Rue went out without bringing any luggage and didn't even inform them. But after some questioning, Qingwu hesitated and couldn't explain why. Yen had no choice but to treat her as her own daughter and start a new round of adolescent rebellion. Because it was too late, Yen decided to invite a few friends out for a leisurely meal. And Qingwu seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. After all, she did some bad things about her daughter. She doesn't want anyone to know about these things, especially her husband and daughter. After taking a shower, Qingwu looked at her charming face in the mirror. Subconsciously reaching out his jade hand to stroke his cheek. Today, she was actually said to be beautiful by a boy about the same age as her daughter. It is impossible for Qingwu to have no secret joy in her heart. After all, with Chen's appearance and family background, what kind of little girl cannot be found? But unfortunately, he came to provoke her. For a moment, the scenes that had just happened in that factory still echoed before her eyes. Gradually, Qingwu's breathing became somewhat rapid, which made her feel a deep sense of guilt. However, she couldn't help but think of Chen's handsome face and what he had done to herself. Especially Chen's exaggerated measurements. Qingwu finally threw her messy thoughts out of her mind. Thinking of her daughter who was still suffering, she calmed down a bit. I just hope he doesn't go too far in the next month. Anyway, I must rescue you. There was a hint of firmness in Qingwu's eyes. Little did they know that this game had just begun to kick off. On the other hand, Chen had just finished tasting Qingwu and went to find Rue. Opened the door of the small black room. Rue in the room suddenly sat up like a frightened rabbit. You. How did you come back? Rue is really afraid of Chen now. She is not foolish either. From Chen's current attitude towards her, she understands that Chen is no longer the licking dog he used to be. Are you coming to release me? Rue looked at Chen with eager eyes, afraid to harm him. Chen smiled very kindly and said, What do you think? Rue's delicate eyebrows furrowed and she said, What are you doing here? I don't want to see you. After speaking, it seems that I realized that my tone was a bit bad. Quickly raise your eyes to observe Chen's expression. Seeing that he was not angry, Rue breathed a sigh of relief. Chen calmly surveyed Rue's figure and appearance. Unlike the maturity of Qingwu, Rue's face is also very beautiful, both have their own strengths. If Qingwu is a peony with a very charming charm, so Rue is the prickly red rose. Youth and beauty are synonymous with beauty like the moon. She doesn't lack the temperament of urban white-collar workers and the elegance of wealthy heirs. Under her pomegranate skirt, there were not 1,000 wealthy people, but also 800. However, few people were able to make him smile. Even the young master of the big family, Su Chen, was just a useful tool in her eyes. According to the original setting, Yan Ryue is very averse to men. Since she is very averse to men, how was she taken down by the original protagonist, Dragon King Yi Xian? Su Chen didn't know what to complain about for a while. Perhaps this is the self-contradiction of mindless plain language. How did you do? How did you stay here? Su Chen smiled and looked at Yan Ryue on the makeshift bed. Upon hearing these words, Yan Ryue sneered and began to complain. How dare you say so? What kind of a ghost place is this? The air is so unpleasant, not to mention the peeling of the roof. And this bed board is so hard, and the quilt is so trendy. Woo-woo, I want to go home. Listening to Yan Ryue's complaints, Su Chen grinned. He hooked his finger at Yan Ryue and whispered, do you want to eat something delicious? When Yan Ryue heard the word delicious, her eyes seemed to have a hint of brilliance. What's delicious? Wellington steak. Or cocoa cake. I'm so hungry. The boxed lunch I had at night is simply not something that humans can eat. Su Chen knew that the young lady must not have had enough to eat at night. But now he is in a good mood. Secondly, I don't want to starve Yan Ryue into any problems. It will be difficult to explain to Qingwu then. After all, she is a precious fishing bait. After thinking about it, Su Chen nodded. Of course I can give you the food you want. But should you express yourself first? Yan Ryue stared blankly at Su Chen and frowned, saying. Are you asking me to pay? Su Chen looked at Yan Ryue, a silly girl, speechlessly and said, do you think you are richer than me? Yan Ryue thought for a moment and shook her head. That's it. I want other rewards. Yan Ryue's face twitched. Because besides money, she really doesn't know what to give Su Chen as compensation. After a moment of contemplation, Yan Ryue's eyes suddenly lit up. How about I sing you a song? Su Chen looked at her like a fool and said, you're not Wang Fei. Why am I listening to you sing? Yan Ryue was immediately choked back by Su Chen's words. She thought angrily that this guy was really puzzled by his charm. Most people don't have a way to listen to her singing yet. Is she someone that those celebrity singers can match? Su Chen lowered her head to check the time on her phone. Alright, I won't ink with you anymore. Come and hold hands with me, and I'll give you something delicious. Hand in hand. Yan Ryue widened her almond eyes and quickly shook her head. No, I can't do it. Su Chen was not in a hurry either, giving her a faint glance. Oh, then I just ordered people to buy the city roast duck pancakes, raisin cakes, and bobo milk tea, and I threw them all away. After speaking, he stood up and was about to leave. As Su Chen approached the door, Yan Ryue couldn't help but speak. Stop me. New book kneeling for collection, flowers, evaluation tickets. Chapter 7. Treatment plan for men with phobia. Request for flower evaluation ticket. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing Yan Ryue's shouts from behind, Su Chen's lips slowly curved. His face showed a mischievous smile of success. However, when he turned his head to face Yan Ryue, the expression on his face quickly turned cold again. Do you have anything else to do? Su Chen's bad attitude completely reversed from her previous appearance of constantly licking her face like a moon. Now it's Yan Ryue who is begging him, not him licking Yan Ryue. Yan Ryue was stared at by Su Chen's indifferent gaze, feeling extremely aggrieved in her heart. But touching her shrunken belly, she still succumbed to the temptation of delicious food. Yan Ryue took a deep breath and said, I promised you. Su Chen deliberately pretended not to know what she was saying. Promise me what? Yan Ryue's small face turned red, and she glared at Su Chen with hatred. Immediately, she lowered her head and whispered softly like a mosquito. Isn't it just holding hands? Just give it to you. Upon hearing this, Su Chen's mouth slightly grinned. I slowly walked back to Yenryue and sat down. After sitting down, Su Chen extended a big hand to Yenryue. Yenryue blinked and looked at Su Chen innocently. What are you doing? Su Chen pouted and said, didn't you want to hold hands with me? Put your hand over here. Yenryue was so angry that she didn't know what to say. When did she take the initiative to hold hands with Su Chen? Su Chen saw that Yenryue seemed a bit reluctant and sneered. I spend hundreds of thousands of yuan per minute, do you want to hold on to me or not? If you don't hold on to me, don't waste my time. Yenryue clenched her teeth tightly and hesitated for a moment before reaching out and placing her hand in Su Chen's hand. Anyway, let him touch his hand. If it's a big deal, just consider it as being bitten by a dog. Suddenly, Yenryue felt a warm touch in her palm. Su Chen lowered her head in satisfaction and played with the green and jade hands that looked like the moon. Her soft and boneless little hands were icy cold, and holding them was very comfortable. It seems that when a girl's hands are nervous, they always feel so cold. Yenryue felt the tingling sensation coming from her palm, and her face turned red. When was she ever so frivolous? For a moment, her heart was filled with various emotions of shame, helplessness, and novelty. Feeling the mixed flavors in my heart. Yenryue regretted not giving Su Chenhao a good face before. After all, Su Chen is still the young master of the Su family, no matter what. Now, perhaps it's his revenge for his previous bad attitude. Su Chen was unaware of the complex emotions in Yenryue's heart. After playing with his fair and tender little hand, he suddenly aimed his 5 fingers at it and clasped it. The next second, their fingers crossed together. Yenryue and Su Chen immediately interlocked their fingers. Yenryue couldn't stop in time, so she could only look at Su Chen with some embarrassment. However, it was discovered that Su Chen was staring at her with a smile on his face. Yenryue took a deep breath and thought to herself, no way. I absolutely can't be angry. This guy definitely wants to intentionally provoke himself. When she really gets angry, he will use it as an excuse not to give her delicious food. She must endure humiliation for the sake of delicious food. We've already asked Su Chen to hold hands. Is it still a little while? Yenryue, hold on. So, Su Chen looked at Yenryue with some surprise as she rarely lost her temper. Even when he made this somewhat excessive move, Yenryue swallowed her anger. It seems that the first step of this male phobia treatment plan has been very successful. Su Chen smiled and only let go when their palms were almost sweating. Yenryue suddenly felt relieved and quickly withdrew her hand to wipe the blanket. After wiping it off, she seemed to realize that Su Chen was still sitting next to her, and suddenly her body froze. Su Chen found her appearance amusing, but did not make it difficult for her anymore. He reached out and rubbed Yenryue's head. Directly kneed Yenryue's green hair into a mess. Before Yenryue exploded, Su Chen withdrew his hand. You did a great job, I'll bring you the food later. But don't eat too much at night. After finishing speaking, he straightened his clothes and strode out. Because it's with its back to Yenryue. So she viciously made small movements behind Su Chen. I saw Yenryue vigorously waving her small fist, venting her dissatisfaction. However, at this moment, Su Chen suddenly turned around abruptly. Yenryue suddenly panicked and quickly withdrew her movements. In a state of panic, she almost fell off the bed. Su Chen smiled without saying anything, and finally glanced at Yenryue. Immediately, he left the cabin. Only when Su Chen walked away did Yenryue feel her heart beating wildly. There is a small deer bumping around in the heart. How does this guy feel completely different from before? Today's Su Chen is completely different from the playboy he used to be. Both in temperament and momentum, they are full of domineering and predatory tendencies. Even with a fearless face like the moon, now seeing Su Chen is like a mouse seeing a cat. For a moment, Yan Ryue's mood underwent a subtle change. So, when Su Chen left the factory and sat in the car, suddenly, a system beep sounded in my ear. Ding! Detected a change in Yan Ryue's mentality, obtained a reversal point of 300. Su Chen casually lit a cigarette. The smoke immediately enveloped his sharply defined face. Amidst the smoke, he smiled as if everything was under his control. Immediately, he exerted force and started the car engine. With a flash of fire, the car rushed out with a loud bang. Under the darkness, the show had just begun. The next morning. The wind is sunny, and there are no clouds for thousands of miles. At the entrance of Jiangqing University, groups of fashionable men and women walked into the school. As the most well-known university in Jiangqing, this university is directly funded by the provincial education organization with a huge investment. And Jiangqing University is also very prestigious and has a place in the national education industry. Besides being well-known in the academic community, Jiangqing University is also very famous. That's the beauty of students. Every time the most beautiful campus ambassador is selected nationwide, Jiangqing University always stands out. It seems that handsome men and beautiful women have taken root in Jiangqing University, and even a talent scout comes here every year. Pedestrians hurriedly pass by the gate of this university and often catch a glimpse. If you could see the legendary school flowers and grass, it would be a feast for the eyes. At this moment, a loud roar of car engines suddenly came from the streets. Many people immediately took out their phones, especially those who knew how to drive. A sports car with extremely exaggerated lines and sharp arrowheads suddenly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The design of the rear of the sports car is like an airplane's tail wing, extending downwards from the roof, exuding both dominance and modern aesthetics. The car owner who recognized the car suddenly exclaimed in surprise. "It's Lamborghini. Lamborghini Veneno. That's right. New book kneeling for collection, flowers, evaluation tickets." Chapter 8. Civilian School Flower Lu Xiaoman seeking flower evaluation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This suddenly appearing Lamborghini Veneno is very dazzling. Immediately attracted the gaze of countless pedestrians. And several men who love luxury cars are chasing after Lamborghini Veneno while shouting and shouting. I'm still the first time I've seen such a luxury car at this age. It's much more handsome than the pictures online. TSK, this car is not something that ordinary people can enjoy. The exorbitant price is not only limited edition, but also impossible to obtain without any means. I'm afraid not many people in Jiangqing can afford this car, right? There are definitely some affordable options, but do you think the person who owns this car would only buy this luxury car? My lifelong goal is to be able to buy one of the wheels of this car in full. Sorry, I don't think you can do it. Inside the car, Su Chen wore sunglasses and listened to a touching music with ease. His trip out was not aimless, but with a very clear purpose. The next female lead in the novel is named Lu Xiaoman. This beautiful girl's persona is a commoner school flower, and her family background is very ordinary. She was completely admitted to the prestigious Jiangqing University through her own efforts. Ranked among the top performers all year round and won various scholarships. The word excellent is no longer sufficient to describe Lu Xiaoman. The boys pursuing Lu Xiaoman probably can't finish queuing from the other end of the street to this end. After reading the original work, Su Chen knew that Lu Xiaoman was the first female lead of Yi Xian's return to China strategy. Since that's the case, Su Chen had to intervene early to intercept Hu. Su Chen slammed on the gas pedal and the car flew out. Meanwhile, Su Chen's target, Lu Xiaoman, was sitting in a milk tea shop. I saw her with a single ponytail, a rosy complexion, and a fresh and natural temperament. Like a blooming flower, it gives people an impulse to kiss and bloom. Lu Xiaoman and his best friend Chu Tian were sitting on chairs in the room, drinking the latest milk tea. Chu Tian suddenly leaned over to Lu Xiaoman's ear with a smile and whispered. "Xiaoman, look. That store manager has been peeking at you. And just now they even gave us a free bill. What's going on between you and him? Honestly explain." Lu Xiaoman's sweet and salty face turned red and gave her a white glance. "Don't talk nonsense, that's Chen, the senior of our school's junior year. We just met a few times in the student union and happened to meet him working part-time here." Chu Tian heard the words but looked incredulous and let out a very perfunctory sigh. She was drinking milk tea while her eyes kept rolling back and forth between the store manager and Lu Xiaoman. Two pretty girls talking and laughing. When it comes to school matters, it's very eye-catching to laugh and laugh. For a moment, people passing by a milk tea shop saw the figures of the two and uncontrollably walked into the shop to buy milk tea. No wonder in the factory advertisement, when a few internet-famous ladies danced, a large number of male workers were recruited. The business of the milk tea shop seems to be getting better and better due to Lu Xiaoman's reasons. Chen also wanted to keep Lu Xiaoman for a while, so he asked the waiter to add 2 small cakes to the two of them. Although Lu Xiaoman didn't want it, he was still persuaded by Chu Tian to accept it. At this moment, several police officers suddenly walked into the milk tea shop. Several police officers seemed to have just finished their duty nearby, sweating profusely in the hot weather, and then came in to drink a cup of milk tea to relieve the heat. The salary of police officers is not high, and there is not much extra income. So, several police officers unanimously chose the cheapest lemonade. For them, just quench their thirst and fill up. The milk tea shop manager Chen, who knew Lu Xiaoman, had a smile on his face as he served a few people. But when I saw that everyone had chosen lemon water, the hint of contempt in my eyes couldn't be hidden. Until a few police officers left the milk tea shop and sat behind the door. Chen couldn't help but wave at a waiter and whispered. "Go and drive away those uncles at the door." The waiter looked up in surprise and suddenly noticed several police uncles with dark skin. The waiter looked at Chen with an incomprehensible expression. "Chen, are you teasing me? What are you doing to catch up with the police when you have nothing to do?" Chen face turned black instantly when he saw that the waiter didn't listen to him. "Take a look at their clothes. Who dares to come in and buy milk tea while sitting at our doorstep?" After speaking, he said with a hint of sadness, "The milk tea shop was originally doing very well today. If you don't rush people and cause the store to lose revenue, I will honestly explain it to the boss." Chen words immediately made the waiter feel conflicted. The working hours at this milk tea shop are not long, and the treatment is still very good. Obviously, such part-time jobs are not easy to find. The waiter's face changed for a moment, but he shook his head at Chen and said, "I'm sorry Chen, I can't do it." Chen laughed back angrily and said, "You don't even listen to the store manager's words. Wait for me." While speaking, Chen kept his voice down. After all, there are still many customers in the store at this time. Seeing the waiter simply ignoring himself, he ignored Chen Chen thought to himself that he would definitely wear small shoes for him and ask the boss to dismiss him. Immediately, Chen put down his store manager's hat and walked towards the entrance from the counter. How could Chu Tian, who had been staring at Chen miss this detail? She quickly gave a glance to Lu Xiaoman and said, "Look, your senior Chen is here." Lu Xiaoman raised his beautiful eyes and glared at her in anger. However, when Chen passed by the dining table of the two, he had no intention of stopping. Chu Tian pouted and suddenly felt bored. Chen walked out of the store and saw several police officers sitting at the door. They drink drinks just to quench their thirst, so they drink quickly and have no time to taste them. Chen walked up to several people with a smile on his face. The police immediately recognized Chen Xicheng as the owner of a milk tea shop. Several people looked at Chen Xicheng in great confusion, not knowing what he was going to do. Immediately after, several people heard words that made their hearts cool from Chen Xicheng's warm mouth. "Excuse me, big brothers. Do you think you want to drink milk tea in a different place? We have revenue requirements here, and sitting here may make it difficult for us to do business. We hope you can understand. Oh, by the way. If you haven't had enough lemon water, we can give you a bucket as a gift in our store." There was not a single dirty word throughout what Chen Xicheng said. But after listening, several police officers looked very ugly on their faces. One of the very sturdy police officers stood up directly, his face turning blue and purple. "Let's go, you can speak frankly, there's no need to insult people like this. New book kneeling for collection, flowers, evaluation tickets." Chapter 9. Sassy white clothes, unparalleled in the world of seeking fresh. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The incident at the entrance of the shop quickly caught the attention of the people in the shop. Lu Xiaoman and Chu Tian just finished eating dim sum and walked to the door. The two suddenly saw several police officers arguing with Chen Xicheng. Lu Xiaoman's heart sank. After all, he was a senior, he knew. If she doesn't come forward and ask what exactly happened and just leave like this, she feels guilty in her heart. So, the graceful Lu Xiaoman stepped forward and took the initiative to speak to a police officer. "Police uncle, what's wrong with you?" Seeing the beautiful and polite Lu Xiaoman, the police officer's mood slightly improved. However, his face was still a bit embarrassed, pointing to Chen Xicheng and explaining to her. "The young shop owner dislikes the cheap food we drink and even sits at the store door occupying space, wanting to drive us away." Upon hearing these words, Lu Xiaoman and Chu Tian immediately showed an incredulous expression on their faces. Lu Xiaoman frowned and said, "Uncle, did you misunderstand?" Chu Tian also had an incredulous expression on her face. "This shop owner is quite polite, shouldn't he do such an excessive thing?" The police officers waved their hands in anger. "You two can go ask my colleagues how that young man insulted us." Lu Xiaoman turned his head and knew when he saw the attitudes of several nearby police officers. "I'm afraid what they said is true." On the other side, the tall and sturdy police officer's face turned red with anger and was arguing with Chen Xicheng. "We may be a bit poor, but we're not lacking in backbone. If you want us to leave, just tell us openly. There's no need to say such disgusting things to highlight your own height. Judging from your age, you are also a recent college student. Your parents are busy working outside and drinking a cup of milk tea. When they are driven away by the shop owner, I hope you can also support the shop owner's behavior." Chen Xicheng was immediately displeased upon hearing this and said, "My parents both work in the office. How many garlic can you compare to them? Besides, you guys are all sweating and sitting at our store door. Who dares to come in like this? Plus, with your clothes on, those who don't know might think there's been a problem in our store." The police officer couldn't compare to Chen Xicheng, the best debater on campus, and immediately became angry and wanted to take action against him. Chen Xicheng dodged with a playful smile while shouting loudly. "Watch the police officers hitting people. They hit people in broad daylight." For a moment, many nearby pedestrians turned to the milk tea shop. Several colleagues of the police quickly stopped and hugged him to prevent the situation from becoming more complicated. "Just a few of you guys, can you argue with me? I'm a talented student from Jiangda." Chen Xicheng thought to himself, just a few small police officers. Do you still want to fight him? Chen Xicheng, please shut up. Suddenly, a very angry and crisp female voice rang out. Chen Xicheng frowned and fixed his gaze. I suddenly realized that Lu Xiaoman in the store appeared here at some point. At this moment, Lu Xiaoman was like an angry cat, staring at him with a pair of beautiful eyes. Chen Xicheng was very puzzled and quickly said, Xiaoman, why are you yelling at me like this? Did I do something wrong? I didn't expect you to be such a person, Xiaoman said coldly, as if he had recognized the person in front of him for the first time. Chen Xiqing felt that Xiaoman was making trouble without reason, and his face also pulled down. Xiaoman, please explain your words clearly. What kind of person am I? And it's up to you to judge me. At this point, Chu Tian also joined the battlefield. Damn it. You're a dog-like person who just showed off to us, Xiaoman. You're changing your face quite quickly now, scumbag. Chen Xiqing hates the word scumbag the most. Especially now, he is in a fit of anger and has suddenly lost his sanity. Taking a step forward, he extended his hand and fiercely pushed Chu Tian. Xiaoman, who was by Chu Tiantian's side, did not expect Chen Xiqing to suddenly attack the girl. Subconsciously reaching out to pull Chu Tian, both of them were suddenly pushed to the ground by Chen Xiqing. Several police officers couldn't bear it anymore when they saw the two girls who were speaking for them fall to the ground. Stop it. Are you still hitting girls like this? Are you a man? After speaking, two police officers stepped forward to protect Xiaoman and the others. The others directly captured Chen Xiqing, leaving him motionless. Let go of me. Ah. You let go of me. Although Chen Xiqing was a young and strong young man. But in front of well-trained police officers, they are still too young. His arms were locked behind the tall and sturdy police officer, shouting incessantly. There are pedestrians passing by nearby, filming everything. The scene appeared extremely chaotic. Just as this farce was ending, I didn't know how to end it. At the end of the street, a loud car engine suddenly sounded. Many people's attention suddenly shifted to that side, eagerly anticipating. Not long after, a silver-lined, rugged and imposing luxury car was seen speeding along with the roar of the car. Immediately, a beautiful tail swayed and stopped steadily near the milk tea shop. For a moment, everyone's gaze moved closely with this luxurious Lamborghini. After all, the owner of this luxury car is definitely not an ordinary person either. The scissor door was slowly pushed open, and the luxurious decoration inside the car disappeared in an instant. Immediately, a man dressed in casual clothes got off the car. Seeing the man's face, many passers-by and little girls burst out with starry eyes. Is this a celebrity? It's too handsome. Oh my goodness, this person is just a model, isn't he? Mad, money and face cannot compare to others. I really don't want to live anymore. Don't worry, there's something you can definitely compare to him. What is it? How come I don't know? That's the amount owed by Snail Flower Shell. Brother, you're definitely higher than him. I'm so convex. The man who got off the car had sharp short hair and extremely excellent masculine features. Unlike those delicate young people in the entertainment industry, his handsomeness is full of edges and corners, making it an unforgettable temperament at a glance. Suchen smiled in her eyes and walked gracefully towards Xiaoman. His gaze seemed to melt, and he turned to Xiaoman, who was somewhat dull. Can I help you up, this beautiful lady? After speaking, he gently extended his right hand to Xiaoman. The extremely gentlemanly movements, combined with Su Chen's appearance. He can truly be said to be a humble gentleman, as gentle as jade. Sassy, unparalleled in the world. Xiaoman's cheeks also turned red, and she looked at Su Chen with embarrassment. After all, she didn't even know Su Chen, and the girl's reserved demeanor made her hesitate. Since seeing Su Chen, Chu Tian has been in a state of brain failure. It wasn't until Su Chen approached and spoke to Xiaoman that her soul returned to her body. The first thing Chu Tian did after waking up was to quickly arch Xiaoman. Xiaoman lowered her beautiful eyes and pursed her beautiful lips. In the end, amidst the cheers of everyone, he gently handed the jade hand to Su Chen's hand. New book kneeling for collection, flowers, Evaluation Tickets. Chapter 10. The Best Assist of Friendly Forces. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Holding Lu Xiaoman's soft and boneless little hand, Chen felt incredibly comfortable. After all, in front of so many people, Chen couldn't always take advantage of them. So Chen smiled and let go of Lu Xiaoman. But who knew that at the moment he helped up Lu Xiaoman, he was a bit nervous and almost couldn't stand firm. Fortunately, Chen had eye problems and quickly held on to her willow waist. Lu Xiaoman's pretty face immediately turned red, and his voice was imperceptible as he said, "Thank you," to Chen. A faint floral scent reached Chen's nose. Chen wore an unchanged gentleman's smile on her face and gently let go of Lu Xiaoman. Lu Xiaoman then fled to his best friend like a little rabbit. At the same time, a ding sound rang in Chen's ear. It goes without saying that he also knows that the reversal point has been credited. Ding. Feel the emotional changes of Lu Xiaoman and obtain a reversal point of 200. Many onlookers nearby captured the scene of Chen supporting Lu Xiaoman like a knight. Then, the video was sent to the internet. Not long after, this video became popular. With Chen's blessed appearance and temperament, countless female netizens blushed. Moreover, many people also saw his frame from the video. This is definitely a dream lover like male god. Money aside, appearance can also be considered a model level. For a while, countless female netizens regarded Chen as a sunny boyfriend, and the popularity continued to rise. Chen naturally didn't know all of this. After he helped up Lu Xiaoman, he heard a strange voice coming from behind. Chen struggled to break free from his constraints and wiped his eyes. "You are young Master Su. Dashao, is that you?" Chen Xiqing's heart was beating vigorously. Chen turned her head and glanced at Chen Xiqing with a smile on her face. He has no impression of the guy in front of him. Perhaps he happened to see himself at a gathering. Chen's guess is really correct. The reason why Chen Xiqing knows Chen. Or it was because once he followed his distant elders at home to attend a local upper-class banquet. Coincidentally, at that banquet, Chen Xiqing met Chen, who was in power. As one of the future successors of several major families. The halo on Chen's body was naturally full, surrounded by stars. And Chen Xiqing stood in the crowd below, like green leaves complementing red flowers. The envy in my heart is self-evident. I'm Chen, who are you? Chen glanced lightly at Chen Xiqing, looking somewhat unwilling to pay attention to him. And when Chen Xiqing received confirmation from Chen, his eyes were almost protruding. After all, the opportunity to meet Chen like this in private is very rare. And Chen Xiqing's family recently opened a new jewelry store. If he could hold Chen's thigh. Will their jewelry store still lack sales? It is absolutely important for jewelers to establish good relationships with these upper-class figures if they want to grow bigger. Chen Xiqing's eyes rolled and he made up his mind to get close to Chen. Shao, I am Chen Xiqing, and Chen Umbrella is my uncle. Chen didn't remember who Chen Umbrella was for a moment. It seems that he is also the head of a family in Jiangqing. After noticing Chen Xiqing's ugly face, Tian, who was already very frustrated, immediately launched a counterattack. The way some people lick their faces and flatter others is really disgusting. Nausea. Speaking, he made a face at Chen Xiqing. Chen Xiqing's expression was very stiff when Tian made such a fuss. But in front of Chen, he has a bad temper and is not easy to get angry. At this moment, Chen suddenly asked with a curious expression. What happened just now, why are you sitting on the ground? As soon as Chen spoke, Chen Xiqing thought to himself that something was wrong. But how could Tian miss this good opportunity? After adding fuel and vinegar to the meal, he directly scolded Chen Xiqing in a bloody manner. After learning about Chen Xiqing's behavior of driving away several police officers, the surrounding onlookers were also angry. Damn it! This person is really not a good person. Even the police officer, are you rushing? Scumbags. Scumbags. You look like a dog, I didn't expect your heart to be so black. Yeah. My little temper is coming up. If it weren't for my leg injury, I would just be kicking left and whipping right. Record it and expose him. This kind of person can actually become a store manager. I won't come to this milk tea shop again in the future. After hearing Chen Xiqing's actions, Su Chen's gaze at him also became somewhat unfriendly. Su Chen looked down on people who relied on their small authority to act recklessly. Seeing that Chen Xiqing still wanted to explain to Su Chen, he simply waved his hand. Sorry, we're not familiar, don't talk to me. After speaking, he turned around and chatted with Xiaoman and the two of them. For a moment, Chen Xiqing pointed it out. Looking at the unfriendly eyes of the people around him, Chen Xiqing felt a sense of frustration in his heart. But at this moment, he also knew that if he continued to cling on to Su Chen might get angry. So he walked into the store with a gloomy expression and picked up his bag. Subsequently, the disheveled face was about to secretly leave the scene. But some onlookers had already thought of this and blocked Chen Xiqing's escape route in advance. For a moment, Chen Xiqing was surrounded and angrily rebuked by the crowd. Seeing Chen Xiqing's gruesome scene of being scolded, Chu Tian still couldn't help but feel angry. This guy is a disaster. I really don't know what the owner of this milk tea shop thinks, how could he let such a person join? Upon hearing this, Su Chen felt lost in thought and smiled at his second daughter, saying, I'll go make a phone call. After speaking, he turned his back and dialed a phone number. Fubo, who owns this milk tea shop XXX? The one known as Fubo is one of the butlers of the Su family. Fubo pondered for a moment and said, Young master, this is our family's industry. I remember you were the one who led the way to create it. Upon hearing this, Su Chen suddenly felt a sense of confusion. This milk tea shop was originally an industry invested in during its predecessor's period of being a spendthrift. In that case, it will be easy to handle. Su Chen asked Fubo to call the branch manager of the milk tea shop and ask them to dismiss someone. Fubo didn't even ask why and went straight to execute it. After Su Chen returned to their side, Xiaoman and Chu Tian quickly withdrew their conversation. The topic that the two were just discussing was obviously related to Su Chen. However, Su Chen was not so impolite and deliberately went to inquire about what the two of them had said. He smiled faintly and said, Actually, this milk tea shop is my industry, and that scumbag is also my employee. I hope to get your understanding on this matter. Although Xiaoman and Chu Tian were surprised that Su Chen was actually the big boss behind the milk tea shop. But they dare not accept Su Chen's apology. Little brother, you're too serious. If you really want to express your apologies, why don't you invite our little man to dinner? As soon as this statement was made, Su Chen secretly gave a thumbs up to Chu Tian, the best assist of the friendly army. On the other side, Xiaoman's pretty face turned red.